Hello and welcome to the second 5-minute retro, which is just my little exploration of old games that I used to own or really wanted to own or have picked up in flea markets and car boot sales since. This one is Tomy Alien Attack. I don't specifically remember owning this one when I was a little boy in the early 1980s, but I certainly had friends that did. My 10-year-old son told me that in my first video I waffled a bit too much, so I just need to get on with it. So I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to switch it on. And you can see straight away this is another one of these games with a VFD, that's a vacuum fluorescent display. They're very bright, they're very vivid, but my do they eat batteries. Again, it has the amateur and pro switch, that's AMA and pro. I'm going to play on amateur because that's slower and bluntly easier. And to start this one, we just press the start button and we'll get going. And you'll see straight away, and you might even recognise the sound, it is basically Scramble. The arcade game Scramble, which was by Konami. And if you look very closely at the top left there, you might see that it says Konami Industry. Now that confused me for a while because I wondered why, if Tomy had licensed this from Konami, that they wouldn't just call it Scramble. And I don't really know what the answer to that is. I guess because it is sufficiently different or not sufficiently the same. So Konami, I guess, would be happy enough for them to use or pay a license fee for the basic idea, but not to call it Scramble because they didn't want to diminish the Scramble brand. That's my guess anyway. I think this one was released in 1981 or 1982. I can't be sure. It isn't easy to necessarily research some of these slightly more obscure games, and there isn't a great Wikipedia page for this one. If you're looking yourself, you might notice that there's another game called Alien Attack by Coleco, which is 1979, also uses a VFT display, but it's a different game and is not the same. But anyway, this is Scramble, and if you've watched my first video, which was on Grandstand Tomy Munchman, and I'll try to put a link in here somewhere, I'll try to work out how to do that. You'll remember that I said the VFD templates are fixed and that Munchman didn't really do a good job at pretending otherwise. This game is slightly better. If you look at what I'm shooting here, these are the fuel dumps, and as I shoot them on the right hand side, as in Scramble, it increases my fuel. Well, my fuel's maximum at the moment, so I can't really demonstrate that. But when they're not fuel dumps, they're missiles. And when they're not missiles, those little red shrouds turn into what are now asteroids, I believe. So it's a very, very clever use of the VFD. Better, certainly, than Munchman. But I've got another game which I'll do later. Oh dear, don't usually die there. I've got another game that I'll do later called Caveman, which is even better still in some respects. But what I love about this game is that you get a real sense of movement. You can't move forward and backwards like you can with Scramble in the arcade. All you do is up and down, but in a funny kind of way that makes the game almost more enjoyable, particularly on the caverns section, which we'll get to in a moment. And you can cheat here, by the way, just by riding out at the bottom. Got to keep an eye on your fuel level though. When you get to the caverns, which comes just after this section, only having to go up and down, and you can see the difference of the shrouds and the missiles that I was talking about, only having to go up and down makes it a lot easier. With the arcade version of Scramble, you also have to consider going left, right, forwards and backwards. And here comes the caverns. Now you can understand that in the arcade, if you're having to go forwards and backwards as well as up and down, that's an extra dimension of movement that you don't have to worry about here. All you have to worry about here is going up and down. However, your timing has to be a lot more careful here, because you have to move in time with the block animation. Now if I'm lucky, I've kind of messed up my timing here because the game takes about 4.5 minutes to play through, so I don't know if I'm going to get there in time because I died, which doesn't normally happen. And I don't want to mess up my idea of 5-minute retro, so I'm not going to. But, oh look, I've got through to the last level. Now the last level is really difficult. This little alien here is a special sprite, and you have to shoot through the walls. It took me forever to learn that every time you shoot a wall again, it regenerates. So it's best to start at the top here. I've messed up there, because they move. Oh, I'm running out of fuel. Just got to go down here, shoot these. I'm not going to do this now, am I? They move top to bottom, bottom to top rather. And if you get it right, you can get a little firing path all the way through. But I'm not. I'm going to mess up, and that's a shame because everything else about this video was doing so well. I'm running out of fuel in. Oh, I've got the path through it. Am I going to do it? 5-minute retro for the win. There we go. Just over 5 minutes. I'm going to call that quits. It's like the other ones. It has a power supply, a power port at the back. It doesn't have a headphone socket. And I'm going to switch off. Otherwise, this becomes 5-minute 10 retro.